feel like Quadeca thinks he's sicker than he actually is.
You could teach JJ one or two things.
You wanna fight Quadeca?
Am I really gonna have to do a diss track?
JJ, you're fucked, bro.
The music scene in the YouTube world has progressed some great distances in recent years, though it still contains a few pathetic rich boys poorly rapping about sex and fame in an attempt to actually find some sex and fame. There are many more legitimately talented and passionate artists that are pumping out some good music than there were a few years back. The stigma of YouTuber can't do anything but make vlogs is beginning to die out, and that makes me happy. We've even seen a few grow big enough to make it mainstream, Joji and Troye Sivan being prime examples. But even though their rise is likely a more inspiring story, they're not the focus of today's video. Rather, we're going to discuss two other YouTube musicians who are making some big moves right now, and how, in a way, they both helped each other get there. The KSI Quadeca beef occurred, as of today, nearly 3 years ago, and in that time, a lot of things have changed. You may be wondering what the point is in me bringing up a long dead internet drama. Well, the KSI Deji beef is long dead, but that didn't stop my explanation video from getting 30k views. So let's do this again. Now, in fairness, I'm coming at this particular video at a very different angle, and I have a lot more positive things to say. The KSI Deji beef was an absolute mess, with legitimate wrongdoings on both sides. One side more than the other. I found myself getting actually annoyed when I talked about it 2 years ago. Since there were so many ridiculous moments, the researching into every detail while I was writing the script left me floored. The fact that a very real disagreement between siblings, once close brothers, was made way too public was just enraging to witness. But looking back at what happened just prior to that awful drama, I think the diss track exchange between KSI and Quadeca is my personal favourite YouTube drama. While most of these social media altercations involve petty insults and baseless claims that get blown up into absurd accusations, the drama between KSI and Quadeca was not only entertaining, but was handled in an awesome way that didn't leave a sour taste in your mouth. Yes, it's just a stupid YouTube drama, but I have to admit that I enjoyed every minute of it back in 2018, and I think there's a reason why. Despite the fact that it all started with an absolutely terrible call-out. So we start our tale about YouTube rappers on the What's Good podcast, hosted by Mini Minter and famous Hesky Time star Randolph. They were just starting out the podcast, and likely to attract some traffic to it, they asked KSI to feature as a guest on one of their very first episodes. However, no one could have predicted just how much traffic this would drive, excluding having KSI's name in the title and his face in the thumbnail. The episode starts off completely normal. They debate about who can be classed as the best rapper of all time. Simple enough, right? Simon believes it's Eminem, KSI believes it's Kendrick Lamar, and Randolph thinks it's Jay-Z.
Simon likes Eminem, you like Jay-Z.
Nah.
And I like Kendrick Lamar.
And though this conversation arguably caused enough comment section squabbling on its own, nothing could have thickened the plot more than when they moved on to their next topic. YouTube rappers. Yet again, they discuss who they believe is the best YouTube rapper. And with KSI dropping a few diss tracks and good old Lamborghini itself, obviously he believes he's the best.
Number 1, KSI, I'm going to say myself.
Number 2, JJ. Number 3, Deji's brother.
With his repertoire, why wouldn't you? Randolph counters by claiming that he's the best, and then they squabble about who's correct. Now, obviously, as is the rapper mentality, they're going to endlessly big themselves up, so this conversation wasn't ever going to go anywhere. But the moment other YouTube rappers get listed out as contenders, we start getting the real debate.
I mean, I guess there's Dax, but like...
I didn't know him, that's it.
I mean, but he's... the poor man's Hobson, and Hobson is the poor man's Eminem.
At this moment, Dax was actually finding some reasonable success with his songs, particularly the She Cheated saga, the absolute best YouTube series.
You got to leave that bitch!
Now this was the first time that I had heard of Dax, and I'd say that's the same for quite a few people, because I think this podcast helped to push his rapping career. As I said, he'd been doing well before, but you can't deny that being called out by KSI in a podcast is a pretty solid boost. He never made a full response to KSI initially, but he did drop some lines about him on his remix of Eminem's Kamikaze.
KSI a bitch get mentioned, views. Nah, but real shit, little nigga, don't you ever try to diss me or I'll come for your neck. I'll be damned if a Uncle Tom corny ass nigga making vlogs try to talk if he ain't showing respect.
This earned him a place on one of the most well-known YouTube diss tracks. Not for the right reasons, but it's well known nevertheless. However, despite the fact that the call-out also gave him a little push in his career, I don't think there's a lot to really say about Dax and what he's been up to since. I think he's made some good stuff. I think he's made some bad stuff. I was on his side with the whole Tory Lanez thing. I also think he actually has talent at rapping, but this dude is extremely cheesy. And I'm sorry, I can't hold respect for anyone who unironically makes this claim.
In goddamn 2019, we're turning the word clout chaser to a positive term.
That's one of the most pathetic things I've ever heard. Jake Paul also gets a mention on What's Good.
Actually, let me put what's his name in there as well. As
Wait, worst or?
Uh,
I've forgotten his name. Jake Paul.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put him in the worst.
Oh,
he can still.
My gosh, bro. He is trash.
But I think it's fairly obvious that this podcast did nothing for his career since he'd already long brainwashed his fan base of low IQ children.
Sup, fucker?
It is interesting to note, however, that Simon gets excited about this call out.
If this sparks a diss track,
man.
I would be gassed.
I
If this sparks Jake Paul's diss track, and he starts featuring this bit in his video.
Should I put your eggs in another basket, Mini Minter? Since, yeah, the podcast did get publicity, but not from who you would have expected. Even though he doesn't get a mention, this podcast arguably helped another YouTube rapper, Crypt, mainly because he doesn't get a mention. Crypt thinks he's the best and therefore gets annoyed that they don't bring him up. He takes a warning shot at Randolph, which garners some attention, and also landing him a feature on one of the most well-known YouTube diss tracks. Again, not for the right reasons, but we've already talked enough about goddamn Comedy Shorts Gamer on this channel. Eventually, though, we get the big boy. Now, Randolph brings up Quadeca in a positive way, and Simon describes him as up there.
Didn't he do a song? Didn't he, JMX, do... Didn't...
Yes. The 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and that was with Quadeca as well, right? The American guy. Yeah.
Quadeca's up there for me.
At this point, Quadeca was already 4 albums deep in his rap career. He'd also featured in a few diss tracks, mainly JMX's, where he blows everyone on those songs out of the water. As well as that, he'd made videos centered around rap that really shows off his talent and versatility, and had made a diss track on Discord, or Rysom's ghostwriter. In credit to him, he wasn't doing too bad for himself. He was a YouTube rapper that had rapping talent and could actually string together some good tracks. For that reason, it angered a lot of people when KSI started coming for him.
His latest track is dead. I feel like Quadeca thinks he's sicker than he actually is. Stay in your lane until you get good enough. He needs to not be so awkward when it comes to music videos. Bring something new to the table. Where's the layers? Where's the concepts? It's fucking dead.
And Quadeca's gonna think he's better than you.
Yeah, but please, man, don't get that shit out my face.
Disregarding every shred of hindsight that I now have, I personally think this call out was terrible, which I'll go in depth on later. He basically tries to delegitimize Quadeca's talent because he apparently lacks layers, even though at this point in 2018, the only thing that KSI had done that he himself characterized as having layers was Transforming, which is a song that wants to be deep so bad that it's laughable. Look, as I said, I'm disregarding hindsight because I think JJ has improved a lot since then. I'm just giving my opinion about why this call out at this time was ridiculous. Now, as I've said, I'm not saying that this podcast was the start of all these guys' careers, but I am saying that this was my initial exposure to all of them, which is something to note for later on. Preceding the release of this episode, many things went down. Dax got some much desired exposure. Crip got enough attention and respect that it practically sealed his victory in KSI's deluxe album competition, and Quadeca dropped Insecure. So, as expected, Quadeca responded to this podcast call out quite quickly. He began by just making a video where he reacts to what JJ says on a podcast and also announces his intention to respond via diss track in a way that is quite funny now that we know exactly what happens.
JJ, you're fucked, bro.
Now, this video helped to reinforce exactly why I originally hated JJ's call out on the podcast. Like, it angered me for this reason.
Alright, I just got back from school. I've been waiting all day to watch this shit, okay? You know, I was just chilling in Spanish class, was packing up to go, and all of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up with notifications. I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, okay, this is bullshit. You know, KSI, he doesn't even know who I am. This guy's like my childhood hero. I used to come back from school in like FIFA 12 and FIFA 13. I just watched all his videos.
As he says, Quadeca was a fan of KSI, someone who grew up watching him and was still in school at the time of the call-out. In fact, he's younger than me. That helped me to really find perspective on exactly the type of person he was calling out here. I grew up watching KSI and his FIFA videos in the same way as Quadeca, and this is the person he's being so unnecessarily hostile towards, saying he's awkward in videos and calling him out for a boxing match when he's literally just turned 18.
And if Quadeca and Dax, want to come at me, I'm like, okay, we can rap. And then after that, once that gets stale, I'll be like, all right, let's fight. And then they'll be like, what?
You want to fight Quadeca?
Why? At the time, I questioned why JJ was being so randomly aggressive towards him. I just couldn't understand. Nowadays, well, we'll get onto that, but this whole thing still feels a little mean. For that reason, I and many others were fully on Quadeca's side in this situation. I didn't know much about him, but regardless of whether or not his diss track was any good, KSI was displaying such an aggravating level of egotism that he was practically bound to lose his exchange anyway. Well, as long as Quadeca's diss track wasn't absolutely terrible.
He's so insecure.
Oh wait, he's singing?
Nowhere to run, nowhere for more.
Why is he
Nah, it's like, fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. Yeah, turn on the fucking beat, bro. KSI, what the fuck are you talking about?
Okay.
None of that fake deep shit in my diss tracks, bro. None of that. Hey, JJ, I'm so sorry you're angry.
Okay. Yeah, the moment this song dropped, I knew it was pretty much over. This track is, in my opinion, the best YouTube diss track. That's discounting iDubbbz' one, because that was rather mocking RiceGum's diss track formula instead of a serious attempt at rapping. But still, at this time in 2018, I could not stop listening to this thing. It had good flow, good disses. He ensured to remain self-aware so that it made JJ's ego look even worse.
I'm small, I'm skinny, I'm white, I got a lisp, I'm awkward, and I'm fucking better than you.
And he even kept himself in the same camp of fans by shooting some disses at Logan Paul as well.
Logan Paul, come and film this, I think I just killed a man.
You have to remember that this was the peak of JJ and Logan's beef. People might assume that anyone against JJ was on Logan's side, so shooting some disses at Logan as well was a good idea. It was a more than solid diss track, and at that moment it solidified for me the winner between them both, and many others felt the same. But there is still a big question here. In all his YouTube beefs, JJ usually has a large portion of his large fan base on his side, hence many people who make diss tracks on him will receive hate and dislikes in droves, regardless of the context. Because of this, JJ doesn't have much of a need to respond to a lot of these people because his fans will do that for him already. Yet, with Quadeca, this didn't happen, not in the slightest. Hate and dislikes were far and few between, significantly less than you would expect anyway. A lot of KSI's fanbase was on Quadeca's side. Why? Oh, come on, it's pretty obvious. This was the story of the underdog rapper who is trying to find a strong foot in the YouTube rap scene, being needlessly called out by an egotistical man who thinks he's a god.
I'm a god.
Because he has a big number next to his name. On this occasion, people wanted to give him a reality check. For that reason, it was very difficult for JJ to make a good response. But, let's take hindsight into account again. Maybe that was a good thing. So, 11 days later, the god,
I'm a god,
himself releases his track titled... Wait, are you for real? Ares, the Greek god of courage and war. Don't know how much that applies to a YouTube diss track exchange, but maybe that is courageous and war-inducing. Look, I audibly laughed out loud when I saw this title. I can't tell if this is genius satire of someone who is that unself-aware, or if he is that unself-aware. The entire reason people were siding with Quadeca was because JJ was being egotistical. Calling yourself a god in your response wasn't going to help that. Now, I'm not saying that this diss track was absolutely despised, because there is still support towards this song, but that's a lot of dislikes, man. There is a reason for that. In this particular situation, dissing somebody by saying how much better you are was not going to work, like it has for JJ in prior situations. I made a video when this track dropped explaining just that. However, looking back, I will say that I was a bit harsh on the song, because there are still a few good disses that deserve to be mentioned, and there wasn't much public information on Quadeca for JJ to go off either. However, my point back then still stands. Don't be a conceited arsehole when you call someone as small time as Quadeca out, and then be a conceited arsehole when you respond. No one likes conceited arseholes. The main part of this track that really shows why it isn't as good as Quadeca's, again, in my opinion, is when he begins to make disses that Quadeca had already dissed himself over on his own track.
I'm small, I'm skinny.
Scorny with your size, baby, try some weight lifting between me and you know what?
I got a lisp, I'm awkward.
Why you trying to say the word, something succotash, baby, panicking, awkward like mannequin, motherfucker, we're battling, this a fall like that.
There's nothing hard-hitting about that, and somehow manages to show Quadeca in a better light, because that shows self-awareness on his part, which again, JJ was clearly lacking here. The release of this response solidified Quadeca's victory in the court of public opinion. Insecure has both more views and a better like to dislike ratio than Ares. Therefore, it's decided definitively Quadeca was the champion. Yay. There was more discussion about this beef after that, but from here, people's attention started to move towards another beef. Yeah, that one. Deji would, of course, a few days later, release Unforgivable, featuring a bunch of YouTube rappers that KSI was on bad terms with at that time. But wait, with a notable missing person. Let's get back to hindsight. Everything I just said are opinions that I still hold today, but with a more light-hearted approach to it. Do I hate KSI for making the Aries diss track? Of course not. Do I think it's a good track nowadays? No, I don't. Am I glad it happened though? Hell yeah! KSI is one of my favourite content creators, and he likely always will be. I think he understands the YouTube game a lot more than people maybe give him credit for. I don't think he called out Quadeca in a hateful manner, like I thought back in 2018. I think his intentions come out when you listen to the podcast.
Listen, Quadeca, if you're still watching this, or if you ever did, I even said to you the other day, I want to make...
Of course he's watching this.
I'll make a track with him.
Me saying his fucking name is boosting him. Same with that. Bro, it is what it is. I know shit's gonna be on Bread Badge. It might probably be on Drama Alert.
He did it to garner attention towards the YouTube rap scene as a whole through the best medium. Drama. Usually, I wouldn't be too happy about this, but when that drama has helped to further the careers of underrated, talented musicians more than it did KSI's, then that's pretty cool. Why did KSI call out an 18-year-old talented rapper who was still in school and was a big fan of him? To get him the attention he deserves. Since the diss tracks have happened, KSI and Quadeca are now on good terms. They've performed live together, they've complimented each other on the works they've put out.
What's your most played song right now?
Oh, you know Quadeca's tune.
And they even collabed through the thing that both got them attention in the very beginning, FIFA. This was all because, despite the fact that they were in a diss track beef, there was still respect there. It explains why JJ makes a reaction video, crediting the diss track with being good.
Hey, I'll give him that. That was sick. That was sick. You did well there, bro.
And also why Quadeca refused to jump on Deji's diss track. Of course, the very idea of someone making a diss track on their own brother isn't very respectful, so maybe that explains why he's not featured. They're both in competition with each other, yes, that goes without saying. But competition can help people push to do their best, to outperform the rest. And when you look at how this situation has panned out, they've both put out their best. KSI has been doing crazy great numbers here in the UK. His album barely missed out on going #1 on the official charts. And every single he puts out lands itself in the top 10 almost without fail. That's insanely impressive for a YouTuber. Quadeca dropped both Voice Memos and From Me to You, albums that I enjoy, particularly the latter. It's established him a loyal and passionate fanbase who are helping him to properly realise his dreams of being both an artist and producer. I mean, the guy got a 5 out of 10 from Anthony the Needle Drop Fantano. If that's not something to be pretty proud of, I don't know what is. And the very fact that Quadeca got that rating, which is higher than KSI got for Dissimulation, will push JJ into really working on his next album to get a higher rating than him.
Yo, I've been working hard with this album, fam. I saw Dissimulation, I was like, alright, how can I make this 10 times better? Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, AOTP all over the place is 10 times better, if not way more. Like, I know Anthony Fantana's gonna give me a way higher album score than Dissimulation.
This diss track beef has incited friendly competition that's helped to not only further the entire YouTube music scene, but also further their own artistic merit. Look, I don't personally enjoy KSI's music. He has a few good songs, but the type of music, the genre, is not really my kind of thing. But I can't deny that there's a massive gulf of improvement between his new and old stuff. If the KSI Quadeca beef had never happened, maybe JJ wouldn't have had that competition to improve himself so much. It may have seemed quite aggressive at the beginning, but in hindsight, this beef was just some fun and games that helped produce a lot of entertainment value and opened me up to a talented YouTube artist that I legitimately enjoy. Then you compare that with the beef that happened right after, the KSI Deji beef. I've talked enough about this disagreement for one lifetime, but one thing I can add is that it's still not fully resolved. Yes, Deji made that apology video quite recently, but you still don't hear JJ mention Deji very often, if at all. When you go back and watch the old videos they used to make together, it's sad thinking that there's likely still some bad blood between them. When you look at everything that occurred during that beef, what good came out of it? It led to 2 emotional videos that wasn't pleasant to witness, that still leaves a lasting repercussion on their relationship as brothers. It's a prime example of a beef gone sour. Nothing really that entertaining. There were moments where it felt genuinely sad, and it was overall completely pointless. That's why, for me, the KSI Quadeca beef was the best YouTube beef, because it was the exact opposite of that. Entertaining, funny, and overall, a good ending.
I respect how he's reacting to it, you know what I'm saying? He's not like getting really mad. Like Rice Gum seemed way more insecure than JJ when he was reacting to it. You know, Jay is at least acknowledging the what's good about it, so I respect that.
Alright, so there you go, there's a little look back at the KSI Quadeca beef. I hope you did enjoy this video. I have put quite a bit of time into this, so a like and a subscription would be incredibly appreciated. I want to also throw a massive thank you for the insane amount of support that the KSI Deji video got. I made that video like 2 years ago, and for like a year and a half it got like 400 views, and for me that's like good enough, you know, but out of nowhere it's just blown up, and it's at this moment approaching 30k. By the time this video goes out, it will likely be on like 30.5k. That to me is so insane. I can't express my appreciation enough. We're so close as well to approaching 1,000 subscribers, so if we could get there, then that would make my entire life worth living. I seek validation through numbers. I do. But yes, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in whatever video I decide to make next. Peace out.